Hi out there, it's me, Cinnamon Roll.
Hi out there, it's me, Steve.
This is my 2006 Bluebird that I'm converting into my home. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been following from the beginning, welcome back to... Around the time that I was filming for this episode in March of 2024, I was involved in a pretty serious car accident. I can't get into too much detail due to an ongoing lawsuit, but I can tell you the basic facts. The weather was pretty snowy that day, and an oncoming vehicle lost control and crashed into the front of the vehicle that I was driving. I have some pictures of the vehicle that I was driving, and you can see it's pretty badly smashed up. Thankfully, my physical injuries appeared to be fairly mild at the time, but mentally I was in pretty rough shape. I still have ongoing health issues due in part to this accident, and I still don't know the full extent of what that entails. Long story short, I had to reevaluate my life and make some changes. One of those changes was getting serious about this bus build. I decided to dedicate a fair chunk of my life to filming my journey, and this is a result of that decision. So thank you for watching this. It's greatly appreciated. In last week's video, I finished up patching these holes and painted the floor black. Because I didn't fully seal the edges of these patches with welding, I needed another way to keep water out, so I bought some flex paste. I applied this to every gap around the wheel wells to prevent water from forcing its way under the floors. That complete, I turned my attention to my condensation problem. I had a fan in the bus before that helped with this, but unfortunately it died. So I bought a cheap box fan. Now that the floors were nicely painted black, this fuel filler cover stood out like a sore thumb, so I took the grinder to it and removed as much rust as I could. I sprayed it down with brake cleaner and wiped it down to remove all the grease and grime. I wanted to do the same with the driver's seat, but first I had to take it apart. My original goal here was to remove all the cushions from the frame so that I could recover them and paint the frame, but I quickly realized that this would be better done by a professional. so I focused my attention on the pedestal instead. That was a nice save if I do say so myself. Once I had the pedestal free of the chair frame, I removed as much of the accessories as I could. Then I took the grinder to it to remove the rust. I used a wire brush for all the areas I couldn't reach with the grinder. The rust on the bottom side of this plate was pretty badly caked on, and I was really struggling to get it all off the grinder, so I took it outside and after some experimentation figured out that if I smacked it with a hammer, I could knock most of the rust off. This was a bigger job than I had anticipated and took quite a bit of elbow grease to get it all off. I yet again grabbed some brake cleaner and cleaned the surfaces of any grease and grime. After that, I coated both the fuel filler cover and the seat pedestal with the rust paint that I used on the floor. I just smeared it on with a brush nice and thick and it seemed to work well. Now that the weather was a bit warmer, I could finally get working on the exterior. I decided to start with some small rust spots. This was just surface rust, so I used the wire wheel to clean it off and gave it a quick coating of primer to keep it from rusting further. This spot by the wheel, however, proved to be a much larger challenge. At first I just cut out a small area, but as I started to grind the rust off, the area that I needed to fix kept getting larger and larger. Eventually it got to the point where I had to remove the rubber mudguard and the rub rail from above the wheel. I did the same thing here where I cleaned off the rust with the wire wheel and laid down a layer of primer to keep the rust from spreading any further. This was a temporary fix. I would later come back to do this properly. I continued to work my way around the bus, cleaning up small areas of rust as I found them. I then decided that the rub rail on the other side of the bus should be removed. After struggling to get a few rivets out though, I decided to instead cut only the area from above the wheel. Needless to say, this piece of rub rail was in pretty bad shape. I removed the rubber mudguard from the driver's side as well, and got to work with the grinder. This side ended up being the same story, where I had to cut out entire sections around the wheel well because the rust was so extensive. I was getting pretty discouraged by the wheel wells, so I decided to do something a little easier. And these small little rust spots were pretty easy to do, so I diverted my attention to those. So remember earlier when I tried to take this entire rub rail off? Well, I needed to put the rivets back in, so I first drilled out the holes with a 17/64 inch drill bit, and used my new favorite tool, the pneumatic rivet gun. You can see from my reaction just how awesome this tool is. You push the rivet into the hole, pull the trigger once to expand the rivet, and pull it again to snap the rod off. And I guess I couldn't put it off any longer. These holes around the wheel needed to be fixed. So, using the original piece as a template, I cut out a new patch, and then welded it in place. I did the same for the next piece, which overlaps the first. Originally, the inner piece was a part of the wheel well, but because I had to weld this new piece in, it wasn't sealed. So I grabbed some flex paste and sealed it all in. I then continued working my way around the wheel, filling in any holes with sheet metal. On the passenger side of the bus, I didn't have the original piece of metal from when I cut it out because it was so badly rusted, so I had to improvise another way to make a template, and this was the solution I came up with. After marking the lines on the tape, I pulled the whole piece off and stuck it to the new sheet of metal. I then cut along the lines and voila! A near perfect patch. There was a support for the skirts in front of this wheel that fell out when I was grinding out the rust earlier, so I simply drilled new holes and riveted it back in place. I tried to put rivets back in the areas that they were originally, but I should have waited until after the bodywork was done before doing this, because they ended up getting in the way. I'll admit that I went on a bit of a riveting binge, but hey, it was satisfying. And that's all for this video. If you liked what you saw, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the video. It's by no means necessary, but it's very much appreciated. I also have a second channel called Cinebeam. It's more focused on gaming content, so if that's up your alley, give it a look. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, enjoy your day, and I'll see you next time.